My name's Josh Mason, and I'm going to be doing a know-how video on the Data Protection Act 1998. First of all, a few bits of information now about me. I'm ex-military, so I'm under the Official Secrets Act. So I'll explain into a bit more detail in a bit. And I work as an accountant as a cleaner, so I'm under the Data Protection Act, which when I was drawing work, I signed it as what's called a confidentiality agreement, which is basically an outline of saying that you accept the terms and conditions of the Data Protection Act. So what is the Data Protection Act? Well, the Data Protection Act protects all the data to everyone. So, for instance, I'm going to explain how it works at work with me. I go to work as a cleaner on a weekend, and my employers, they leave bits of work all over the place. Files with people's names, accounts, and loads of stuff. Complete everything you could think of. That's about most of them I'll tell you because of the Data Protection Act. I'm not going to tell you what's on those because the Data Protection Act stops people from giving other people unauthorized access and information to others. So, for instance, me being at work, I'm not allowed to disclose to anyone outside of work. I'm not even allowed to disclose to anyone at work what names, what things I've seen on pieces of paper. This could be the fact that someone upstairs in the office might have someone that's like might have a case that's against someone downstairs, and they're having legal proceedings between two people's clients. And if I went and said, "Oh yeah, I've seen this ring on there. They've got some account details on here. It's got some Joe blogs." It's like it's got some. Oh yeah, you got Joe blogs there. Oh yeah, they're saying I'm breaking the law because I'm not allowed to disclose what's upstairs and what's downstairs. If the boss comes down and sees it herself, and that's up to her. That's her responsibility. I, being the cleaner, and being the one that's not a qualifier, and because I've signed the Data Protection Act for work, I'm not allowed to go and disclose either of those informations. Because obviously it could make things go wrong in place. It could make things go for or against me. I'm sure you don't want to happen. Now, that's just an instance. Not that it's going to happen, because there's no great accountants and not for everyone they do law, but that's just an example. Another example is you go to doctor's surgery. Now, all those receptionists, all those doctors have the care of duty, and they have signed the Data Protection Act as soon as they start work. To say the fact they're not going to pass information from patients onto other patients, staff, whether without authorization. So, say a receptionist goes to the doctor, says, "I want information on Joe down the road." Doctor will ask for authorization, why they need it, and who requested them to get the information in the first place. If they can't come up with anything, action will be taken as to what, and then there will be questions as to why they want the information. And that is how we stop people from getting your information unauthorized. Now, another thing with the doctors, you move house, say, to Warwick from Leamington. You have to change doctors. Your new doctors in Warwick, like in Leamington, can't get your files from Warwick without authorization because of the Data Protection Act. They have to request authorization from your old doctor to send them. They can't just walk in and say, "Oh yeah, I want this off the go," sort of thing. They have to ask permission because for all they know, they could be someone that wants it for no good reason for you. You could still be listed at Warwick doctor. You might have nothing to do with them, you might want to travel the extra miles. But you have to do it, they have to do it, so they know it's genuine, the fact it's genuine and legal. Because in the day, your data covers everything. It covers your financial situation, your bank details, national insurance, what assets you have, where you live, credit cards, your date of birth, your address, And what they stand to use is a lot of fraudsters out there, and they'll go through your bins trying to find stuff for you. Now, some people still dump things in the bin, which they shouldn't do. It's got details on. But that's why a lot of people start shredding things or burning details, because then you can't stop people getting your information if you just bin it or you just lob it somewhere and people can find it, and just anyone off the street sort of thing goes through your bin or whatever. Which there are weird people that do it. Then, if something like that happened, you take them to the court. If you could prove who it was, and say, Joey here has decided that they're going rifling through my bin and get my information and use it against me. He'll then be charged under the Data Protection Act because wrongfully taken data without authorization. Doesn't matter the fact he hasn't done the Data Protection Act. He's probably done it somewhere along his life. Everyone does Data Protection Act. You probably do it without even realising. You go to your bank, your details at the bank for data protection, data protected. Now, that's the way it goes. It's to protect everything you have, all your personal information, from unauthorised access. Now, like I said at the beginning, I'm ex-military, and when I left the military, I had to sign a form called the Official Secrets Act. Now, no one signs it. No one on Civvy Street, as in normal civilians, non-government working people, you have to have this Official Secrets Act. This is for civilians that work in the government or near to government, and this is for military personnel when they leave, because obviously we have access to information which if the wrong people get hold of it, we're in trouble, and so is our national security. For instance, me, I have burnt a lot of my documents that I had when I was on army selection. It might sound trivial because I was a civilian at the time when I went for selection, but things like we were taught information on how to make a grenade. I need a smoke grenade. I need something that all of us civilians in that selection course to get into the army were taught, but because I don't want anyone getting access to that, and because I've signed the Official Secrets Act, I went and burnt that new day. The same as when I left the army. When I was in, we had a book, and we had to write down information that we learned during our lectures. Now, I kept that ring as memories, and I thought, no, if someone gets hold of this, the wrong person gets hold of this information, then that could affect not just me and my chances of getting back into the military at a later date, but also the interests of my country's national security. The Queen and her officers and their people in my country, which I swore an oath to protect. Now, the Data Protection Act, the Official Secrets Act, is basically a much higher version of the Data Protection Act. It stops me from doing any of this. And by burning these notes I had, I can stop anyone out there that might be after that sort of information from getting it, because it's burnt and there's no more trace of it that I have. And that is basically what the Official Secrets Act is. It's more intense, a lot more higher up the chain than the Data Protection Act, but it's exactly the same thing. I mean, the Official Secrets Act is a big one. It's the Official Secrets Act of 1911 to 1980. I have it here, so 1989. Now here is the Official Secrets Act. This is not a restricted document. I just had that checked with the army. But it's basically, if you look at here, right, yep. This basically also says about Crown copyright, which is basically what does everyone else. This all, as you can see, it's all signed by me, under my old name, and signed by military personnel. This one I left the military, I had to sign it today. The Crown copyright, which is listed on here, as you can probably see there. that is a bit more than just Data Protection Act. Crown copyright covers all documents to the Crown, as in all government documents, which is the reason why which they have the Official Secrets Act. The Official Secrets Act goes over Crown copyright. Now, I don't know much about the Crown copyright except from its more or less the Official Secrets Act, because I wasn't in that long to be able to go that far. Obviously, they don't tell us recruits and soldiers and that what's so technical. You're in the law and you understand. Another thing I'm going to show you now is my signed copy of the Data Protection Act. Like I say, it's called the Confidentiality Agreement. Here it is, the Confidentiality Agreement. Yeah, Thelma J. Murphy Limited has to deal with sensitive and confidential paperwork and information for clients and staff during the course of its day-to-day activities. This information comes under Data Protection of the Data Protection Act 1988 or 98. I'm not sure whether it's a typo on college or this. And must be considered highly confidential at all times. So by this, I'm not going to read the whole lot because it's going to take ages, but as you can see there, that is my signature there to say that I signed it and dated, and my boss has signed it to say that I signed it and dated. So now I'm not just under the Official Secrets Act, which is, although it's a lot higher than the Data Protection Act, I am now also under the Civilian Data Protection Act. So yeah, that is basically the Official Secrets Act and Data Protection Act in worse full. Let's see what else I need to cover now. Yeah, like I said, that's how it affects us. It's there to protect us. And I think one incident, I'll use an example now. This is going to sound a bit of a weird example, but it's one that makes it through. I'm using the Official Secrets Act as an example because it's easier for me to explain the secrets because I know more about it than it's still a Data Protection Act, like I said, it's a higher version, so I can explain it more. You watch these movies and you watch these programs and all these army films and all these spy dramas, but there's one thing that a lot of people don't tend to realise, and that is when you have the ones where you got also this person who's higher up in the army, he's left, and he's got all that knowledge, and then all of a sudden things start breaking out between two countries, or things start going bad between governments, and suddenly this person who's left the army suddenly takes his knowledge and he sends it on to someone else, and he passes it on to another government. Now that is a breach of the Official Secrets Act, because he's passing on secrets or classified information, any kind of sensitive material, which he's not allowed by law under the Official Secrets Act and Data Protection Act to give, because it can threaten his country and national security and his people and everything. So by when these people do that, you see it in the movies and it does happen in real life. That's why I'm using the example. But that is a breach of it. That is the whole point of these to be put in place. Because if you break those acts, you'll face law, you'll face charges. In and around college, how it affects us and fellow students. Well, if we're at college and we start putting information to other students that they're not supposed to know about someone else, then they can start going tick-tock to everyone else and start making things worse. So, for instance, say there's two people at college had a fight. One of them goes off one tutor, another goes to another tutor. One's mates decide they're going to get involved and start trying to dig dirt on the other one, trying to get him done. When he's the innocent party, and they're trying to get you, they think, oh yeah, mate's getting done for it, you want to get away with it. So they go and try and get information regarding this thing, try and sneak in someone's room or something, try and get a report of, oh yeah, he's done this, and replace it with a different report, or take it to their college, their tutor, and say, oh yeah, they've written this report and saying the fact that he's done this is a statement, they're breaking the Data Protection Act because they're passing on something which could affect the outcome of the situation. Because they've always seen something they're not supposed to see, because the tutors of the two parties should come together and show those things. But why one of you going in and saying, now I'm going to go ahead and showing the tutor, when he's not supposed to, because he hasn't had access, he's not supposed to have access to it until they've both finished their investigations, then problems start to arise. Another thing is when we do our work. We're not supposed to use plagiarism, because that's copying someone else's work. Now that's data protection at the end of the day, which is why in all our work, we're supposed to do something at college. It's okay looking at information and getting, okay, yeah, we tutors say get pictures off the internet, but you have to reference them, because if you don't reference them, you are plagiarism, you just copy them straight away. That's why they always say reference any images you have, which you can know from my last course I did. Yeah, so when you're doing your work, you don't copy and paste all the writing. You look through it, you get the key information from it, and you write it in your own words. Because plagiarism is still copyright, which is data protection. So if you're just copying something and saying it's my own work, you'll get your work handed back with plagiarism, and also because it's against the Data Protection Act, because you're giving someone else the information without their permission. And of course, all information on the internet that you can't copy has a thing on it that will see in a circle saying copyright, which of course is protected by the Copyright and Data Protection Act, to say the fact it can't be passed on without permission. And of course, the college, they want you to use your own work, not go and use someone else's and break the Data Protection Act. So basically, that is me covering the whole Data Protection Act. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.